Next topic, Servlet listeners. Servlet listeners. See, whatever you studied, that is Servlets. These are Servlet listeners. Servlet listeners also comes under Servlets only. Now, Servlet listeners. Note on. Servlet listeners are interfaces. Servlet listeners are interfaces that contain event handlers. Event handlers to handle events which are generated by web container. Servlet listeners are interfaces that contain event handlers to handle events which are generated by web container. Servlet listeners nothing but interfaces. These interfaces contain event handlers to handle events which are generated by web container. So web container generates events. Web container generates events. Those events are handled by event handlers. Those handlers are available in listeners. What exactly this? I'll explain. See, web container generates events. Web container generates events. That events handled by event handlers. Event handlers are nothing but methods. Those methods are available in listeners. Listeners nothing but interfaces. For understanding, best example, exception handling. In core Java, you studied exception handling. Try block. After that, you will write some code. After this, catch block, exception class name, object reference. You'll write like this. You'll write some other code here. Like this, you'll write. It did try block, it did catch block. It did try block, it did catch block. In try block, what will write? Catch block, what will write? In try block, what will write? What will write? Task code. Okay. Catch block, what will write? What will write? User friendly error message. User understandable format will write. Okay. Try block, catch block. Try block and catch block. In a try block, we'll write the task code. In a catch block, we'll write user friendly error message. Now, when this catch block is executed, when the catch block is executed, whenever exception occurs in a program, suppose this code successfully executed, this code also successfully executed, then is it catch block executed? No. Suppose in this line some exception occurred, then catch block executed. But whenever exception occurs, what will be happen by JVM? What JVM will do? It creates object of particular exception class. Okay. So in this line, suppose exception occurred. In this line, suppose exception occurred. Whenever exception occurred, automatically object is created by JVM. That is core Java. Okay. With that, these listeners you can understand. Okay. Just I'm comparing with exception handling, you'll get a more clarity. Now, whenever exception occurs, suppose in this line, one exception occurred. That is null pointer exception, or array index out of bounds exception, or arithmetic exception, or index out of bounds exception, like that, illegal argument exception, interpret exception, SQL exception, and Servlet exception. So many exceptions, unavailable exception, IO exception. Some thousands of exception classes are there in Java library. Now, one exception occurred. Then what JVM will do? That class object creates. Automatically object created. That object created and passed to event handler. This event handler, exception handler, nothing but catch block. This catch block will catch the object. But what we are writing here, class name we are writing, object reference we are writing. But are we creating object? No. Who will create object? JVM creates object. The JVM creates object. That object handled by exception handler. Exception handler nothing but catch block. Catch block will handle exception. That's what catch block is called, exception handler. See, while executing this code, if exception occurs, automatically that particular exception class object created by JVM, that object passed to catch block. That catch block is called exception handler because it will handle exception. Okay. So in this line, exception occurred. Assume null pointer exception occurred. Then automatically null pointer exception object created by JVM. That object passed to catch block. Catch block will catch the object with object reference. It will catch. Then in catch block, whatever we written, that code executed. That is user-friendly error message. User understandable format we are writing. And if we don't write user-friendly error message, that exception class name displayed, you will get it message, exception in thread main, null pointer exception, this object is null, like that message comes. That exception related message we can understand. Those who are learning Java, they can understand. But users, end user, he cannot understand. That is the reason we'll handle that exception, we'll write user-friendly error message, user understandable format. That is exception handling concept. Say, for example, ATM machine example, ATM example. Now, you'll go to withdraw money from ATM center. You'll go to ATM center. First, you'll insert ATM card. ATM card is valid or not valid, it will check. Okay. In an ATM machine, you'll insert ATM card. What system will do? First, it will check that card is valid or not valid. Card is valid. Then it will ask PIN number. That means whether you are authorized person or not. First, card is valid. Card is valid or not valid, it will check. But card may be valid. Other people card also you may insert, no? That's what it will check. Whether you are authorized person or not to access that card. So again it will check you are authorized person or not. Suppose PIN number also valid. That means you are authorized person to access that card. Whenever you insert ATM card, first it will check card is valid or not. Next it will check whether you are valid or not. Okay. That means you are authorized person or not to access that card. Suppose you are authorized person to access that card. Then it will ask amount, how much amount you want to withdraw money. So you'll enter something 5,000 or 10,000, you'll enter. Then ATM client machine doesn't know whether balance is there or not in your account. What ATM client machine will do? It will send the request to server. That ATM machine is nothing but client. It doesn't know whether balance is there or not. Maybe balance 0. You'll enter to withdraw money 10,000. But it has to check whether balance is there or not. So client system will send to server system. Client and server communication going on. For that, internet connection required, physical connection required, logical connection required. After that, server receives your ATM card number, ATM account number, your PIN number, everything will be received by server also. Date, time, everything, it is going to be maintained. See, one transaction if you perform in ATM center, on which date you performed and at what time you performed, what is the transaction you did, and your photo, everything is going to be stored permanently in database. Because you may withdraw money from ATM center 10,000. Again, you'll go to bank, I didn't withdraw, money deducted from my account, you'll ask. Then what they'll show, which ATM center you used and on which date you used, at what time you used, who is used, everything, your photo also they'll show you. Okay. So like that, complete information is going to be stored permanently in database. Okay. Now, server has to check in database that account number is there or not. In that account number, balance is there or not. While checking, so many things required. Like database driver required. Database driver should be there. URL should be there. Port number should be there. That username, password should match. And table name should match. So many things. Suppose driver is not there. Class not found, exception occurs. Connection establishment problem is there. IO exception occurs. Port number is not there. IO exception occurs. And like that, username, password is not there. Security exception occurs. Like this, so many exceptions will be there. Then exception occurred. If you don't write user-friendly error message, one message comes, driver not found exception. Will they understand end user? What is a driver? Who is a driver in ATM center? He doesn't know. Driver means one software, you know. But other people, they don't know. Like driver not found exception means they cannot understand. Who is a driver in ATM center? They'll search. That will happen. Okay. That's what. One simple English message. Temporarily out of service or service unavailable. This type of message they'll write. That message is going to come. That's what user-friendly error message will write. Okay. But predefined exception message, what will be there? Class name will be displayed. Whichever exception occurred, that class name displayed and some message also displayed. That message only Java people can understand. Those who are learning Java, they can understand. Those who learn Java, they can understand. Remaining other people cannot understand. That is the reason we have tried user-friendly error message. Okay. But here, whenever exception occurs, what will be happen is object created by JVM. Automatically object created. That object received by catch block. Here we are writing class name and object reference. But object is received by object reference. Now, here, exception. It is nothing but one class. That class object automatically created by JVM. That object automatically passed to exception handler. Nothing but catch block. Catch block will receive. Then that catch block code executed. Whatever you write the code, that code executed, you'll get a message. That is exception handling. Same style here. Event is generated by web container. Event is generated by web container. Event nothing but one class. That class object automatically created by web container here. So here event equivalent to exception class. It is event class, that is exception class. That exception class object created by JVM. Here event class object is created by web container. Web container with helping of JVM only creates. That exception class object pass it to catch block. That is called exception handler. Here event object created by web container pass it to event handler. That is nothing but one method. That method available in interface. Got it? So here web container automatically generates events. Event listeners what will do? Always it will listen. Whether event generated or not, it will listen. If generated, it will handle. That is only event handler. Handler will handle. But in previous programs also event generated. In previous all program, welcome program onwards up to yesterday's session tracking program. Up to that, events are generated. But listeners not listen. Reason, we didn't write. See, suppose for example, I am teaching. All are listening? No. Few people are listening, people are not listening. Like that. Here also, previous programs not listen. Now, this program today, we are going to write listener. It will listen. That type. So, in previous programs also, event generated. But listeners were not there. Not listened. But generated. Events are generated. But not handled. Today, we are going to handle. These handlers automatically executed. Automatically executed. That is event handler, servlet listener mechanism. So web container automatically generates events. Those events are handled by event handlers. Those handlers are available in listeners. If you write listeners, that program automatically executed. No need to execute this program. It is automatically executed. That is listener program. What is the benefit with this one? Why do we need? Where we ought to write? How to write? I'll show you. See. Note down. List of Servlet listeners. List of Servlet listeners. Jakarta.servlet context listener. Jakarta.servlet context attribute listener. Jakarta.servlet.hdp session listener. List of Servlet listeners. Jakarta.servlet context listener. Jakarta.servlet context attribute listener. Jakarta.servlet.hdp session listener. Jakarta.servlet.hdp session attribute listener. Dash etc. Many are there. Many are there. Only two important. 10 plus listeners are there. In 10 plus listeners, only 2 is important. Only 2. If it is Tomcat 9, just Jakarta plus Java X. That's it. The remaining all same. So advanced Java concepts frequently they are not updating. That's what Tomcat 8 also, 9 also, 10 also, 10.1 also, almost all programs will work. Frequently they are not updating advanced Java. Core Java they are updating. Spring Boot also they are updating. Frameworks also frequently they are updating. Core Java they are updating frequently. But advanced Java frequently they are not updating. Okay. because based on these only frameworks came. Frameworks they are updating. Core Java every 6 months they are updating, and frameworks every month they are updating. So many concepts are coming in frameworks. Every month they are updating frameworks. But advanced Java updations are very less. Very less. Okay. Servlet context listener, Servlet context attribute listener, HTTP session listener, HTTP session attribute listener, dash dash, etc. There are 10 plus listeners are there. Out of 10, only 2 listeners are important. One is Servlet context listener, one is HTTP session listener. Only 2 are most important. Remaining all not much important. Okay. One listener, if you know, remaining all listeners you can write. Programming style is same. Okay. These are listeners. Listeners are classes or interfaces. Interfaces. Listeners are interfaces. Okay. These interfaces contains methods. Those methods we are calling event handlers. Those methods we are calling event handlers. Okay. Those handlers will handle events. Those handlers handles event. See here, first listener, what it contains. Now, note Servlet context listener. It contains the following event handlers. It contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event. It contains the following event handlers. It contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event. Which is generated by web container. It contains the following event handlers. It contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event, which is generated by web container. It contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event, which is generated by web container. Here, this listener handles Servlet context event. This listener handles Servlet context attribute event. This listener handles HTTP session event. This listener handles HTTP session binding event. Okay. Different listeners, different events handles. Whichever you required, that is you have to use. But how to select which one required in our program, that is I'll explain. Now, first event handlers list I'll give about this. Here, 2 handlers are there. It contains the following event handlers to handle events. This is first one. It is second one. Right is all. It contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event, which is generated by web container. Context initialized, context destroyed. Two methods. Are these abstract methods or concrete methods? Abstract method or concrete method? How do you know that is concrete? Default. It is Java 8 feature. You already studied. So Java 8 features only, 11 features are there. Java 8. Okay, in core Java you studied. 11 features, only Java 8. Okay. Default methods. These are default methods, non-abstract methods, concrete methods we can call. Now, that means two methods not compulsory to override. One method also you can override. That purpose they made it default. When Java 8 came, then they changed. Previously, it was like this. If it is like this, what will happen? Even if you required one method also, you have to override two methods. When Java 8 concept introduced, they changed it to default. When Java 8 feature introduced, this is updated. Abstract to default, they changed. Okay. Now, it is not mandatory to override two methods. One also we can override, two also we can override. Even if it don't override also, program compiled successfully. But no error, no exception, no output. Output also will not come. Okay. So, either one or two, you have to override. If you don't override any method also, program successfully compiled, successfully executed, error will not come, exception will not come, output will not come. Okay. So either override one or two, depends. Now, first of all, what I given see, it contains the following event handlers to handle Servlet context event. So your parameter Servlet context event. Your parameter Servlet context event. In a catch block, null pointer exception, I'll write. Then that catch block will handle null pointer exception only. That subclass also handled. In a catch block, if I write arithmetic exception, it will handle arithmetic exception and its subclass. In a catch block, if I write Servlet exception, it will handle Servlet exception and subclass. Like that you studied. Here, this method will handle Servlet context event. It is just like a catch block type. Catch block is called exception handler. It will handle exception. These methods are called event handlers. Event handlers handles events. Events are classes. Exceptions are classes. Who will create? Their JVM create, here web container create will call. Here also with helping of JVM only creates. Now, context initialized method handles Servlet context event. Context destroyed method handles Servlet context event. But both will handle same event, but situation different. Now, what's the difference? See. Note. Servlet context event is generated by web container whenever Servlet context is created and destroyed. Servlet context event is generated by web container whenever Servlet context is created and destroyed. Servlet context event is generated by web container whenever Servlet context is created and destroyed. Servlet context event is generated by web container whenever Servlet context is created and destroyed. See, this event This event is generated by web container whenever context is created and destroyed. When Servlet context is created and destroyed, you already studied. When Servlet context created, whenever web application is deployed on server. Whenever web application is undeployed, destroyed. Servlet context destroyed. Write this one. Servlet context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Servlet context is destroyed by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. Servlet context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Servlet context is destroyed by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. Servlet context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Servlet context is destroyed by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. See, whenever application deployed, then Servlet context created. When Servlet context created, then Servlet context event generated. When Servlet context event generated, it is received. Then this method executed. So it is automatically run. It will run if you write. Now, next nodal. The following series of actions done by web container the following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. See, first what will happen is whenever application deployed, what will happen? Servlet context created. Servlet context is created. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Servlet context created. Next, Servlet context event is generated. Listen. Now, first context created. Next context event generated. This event passed to context initialized method. So next write it. Servlet context event is passed to context initialized method. Initialized. Whenever application deployed, first context created, next context event generated, next event passed to context initialized method. Next context initialized method body executed. Method body we have to write. See, it is server. No, it is server. It is application. This is deployed. It is server. It is application deployed. First, what will happen? Context created. Next, context event generated. Next, context event is passed to context initialized method. Next, context initialized method body executed. That means whenever application deployed, context initialized method body executed. Okay, so these are all done, but this method automatically executed. When it is executed? Whenever application deployed. Whenever application deployed, this method executed. Whenever application undeployed, this method executed. But directly that is not executed. These all actions done. These all done. Okay. Same style. Next, write it. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. First, Servlet context is destroyed. Servlet context event is generated. Servlet context event is passed to context destroyed method. Next, context destroyed method body executed. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. The following series of actions done by web container whenever web application is undeployed from server. Whenever web application undeployed, this process done. First, Servlet context destroyed. Next, event generated. Next, event passed to destroyed method. Context destroyed. context destroyed method body executed. This is all done whenever application undeployed from server. That means at last 1 point, whenever application undeployed, context destroyed method body executed. This is all done, but that method when it is executed, whenever undeployed. Okay. See, whenever application deployed, at the time, whatever you want automatically, that code you have to write in the context initialized method. Whenever application undeployed, at the time, whatever you want that code you have to write in the context destroyed method. These two methods automatically executed because these two methods are available in listeners. Listeners, it will listen, and whenever event generated, handles. That is listener mechanism. But in previous programs also, events generated. Every program event generated, but we didn't write listeners. That's what not listen. That's what not listen. But executed, events are generated. Events web container generated, but we didn't handle. Now today we are going to handle. Okay. So in previous program, every program context is created. Every program context is destroyed. But at the time, events are generated. Events pass it to these methods. These methods we didn't write. That's what not executed, not handled. So here, when this method is executed, whenever web application is deployed. When this method is executed, whenever web application is undeployed. While deploying whatever you want automatically, that code you have to write in this method. While undeploying whatever you want, that code you can write in destroyed. Now, one situation, one example I'll show you. You already studied login application. Login. In that, 3 servlets were written. You are not listening. Continuously discussion. Then attending classes is no use. Now, here in login application, 3 servlets are there. Login servlet is there, registration servlet is there, welcome servlet is there. Already know 3 servlets are there here. Login, SRC, main, Java, login. Login servlet, registration servlet, welcome servlet. 3 servlets are there. Okay. In 3 servlets, in how many servlets we written connection establishment code? How many? 2 servlets. What are those? Login servlet, registration servlet. See. Login servlet. Here we written connection establishment code. Connection establishment code. Now connection con. That connection established here. That connection we used here. See, this program, many people, they asked this error, null pointer exception, connection equal to null. That means here, suppose connection is not established. Can we use connection reference methods? That is only null pointer exception. But there are 10 plus reasons are there. First error is connection not established. Once if the connection is not established, con is a object reference. Con. It is the object reference. What it contains? Hash code. If connection is established, hash code. Connection is not established, null. Hash code is there. This method you can call. Null is there. Can you call? That is only null pointer exception. Null pointer exception. Now, this line you will get an error. Null pointer exception. This dot con equal to null. If connection is connection reference if it is contains hash code, with that you can call prepare statement method. But connection reference contains null, you cannot call method. If you call, null pointer exception comes. See, file, open. You observe, file, open. Here, void show is on method. System.out.println. Is it instance method or class method? Instance method or class method? How many ways to access? What are those? With object reference, I want to call. How to call? Demo, D equal to new demo. Next, d.show. Now, file, save. If I run, you'll get output, welcome. Now, if I print here system.out.println D, what will be the output? What will be the output? Hash code. So D contains hash code. D contains hash code. Okay, it is hash code. Suppose here, if I write null, now what will happen? In this line, null pointer exception. This line also not executed. Okay, file, save. Compilation success. Execution, null pointer exception. Cannot invoke demo.show. Null pointer exception. Okay, this is null. Like this, here D contains null. Then you cannot call show method. Here, this connection reference contains null. You cannot call this method. Then null pointer exception comes. Now, but you written connection establishment code here. Connection establishment code here you written. Everything you written. But still you are getting error. That may be problem. Suppose here. Now this connection reference instance variable or local variable. It is instance variable. You can access. This connection only here we written. Suppose here also connection if you write. Here also connection like this if you write. This connection established. Is this connection established? No. This one if you access, what will happen? Null pointer exception. So maybe problem here. Here that error comes. Otherwise, if you write here, this connection, if you access, it contains null. This is one more variable. Con is a instance variable, it contains null. But this con contains connection, hash code. But this hash code you cannot access there. This is also same error comes. Null pointer exception comes. Suppose you written like this only. But here already Servlet context dot get init parameter, these all we written. Here, driver, URL, username, password. These parameter names are not matched in XML file. If not matched, connection is established. Then also null pointer exception. But configuration you written wrong. Then also connection not established. Then also null pointer exception. Suppose driver is not there. Then also connection not established. Then also null pointer exception. Driver you have to attach to that jar file, that application, dynamic web project. You have to throw build path, you have to add. And you have to copy into Tomcat lib. You copied in Tomcat lib, but you copied in, you added to build path, and still you are getting error. Parameters may be wrong. You are getting null pointer exception means that is your mistake only. Definitely your mistake. But to check each and every parameter, it will take half an hour also. Half an hour also it will take. That will happen. Problem is connection not established. Why it is not established? Parameters may be wrong. The jar file may be not added. And here maybe local variable you written. Like that, many reasons will be there. But this question, many people they send mail. Many people ask this question. But how can I give answer? 10 plus reasons are there. You have to copy into Tomcat lib folder jar file. That is first mistake. If not copied, that is also comes. Sometimes that may not work. Then throw build path. Through build path you have to establish. Through build path you have to add jar file. Suppose that is also okay. Problem may be URL, driver, username, password. That is XML configuration. Configuration, people are writing themselves. While writing, some mistake may be happened. Context param, spelling mistake. Then also error, same error. The parameter is not there. The XML file automatically generated, but few people they are editing that XML file themselves. While editing, some spelling mistake, capital letter mistake, small letter mistake also. And sometimes here username they'll write, their user they'll write. That parameter not matched. Then also. Definitely that is your mistake only. If that error coming. That is you have to take care. Each and every line, word by word, you check it. Definitely it will execute. Because many people I received this message. Connection equal to not, this dot con equal to null. Null pointer exception. These screenshots, many screenshots I have seen in mails. Okay. That is definitely your mistake. You check it each and every line. Now, my question, today our task is listener programming. Listener programming. Okay. Now, here, login Servlet, connection established. Registration Servlet also, we established connection. Welcome Servlet, not there. Okay. But in login Servlet, we created connection establishment. Well, registration Servlet, we created connection establishment. But instead of writing two connections, login Servlet connection you can access directly in registration Servlet. No, it is better, no? Instead of creating two times, now present two times. Suppose while developing project, 10 Servlets will be there. 10 Servlet again connection, 10 times. Why connection? One time only create access. It is better, no? Now give me answer. In login Servlet, I created connection. Registration Servlet, I don't want to create. I don't want to create this all code. This login Servlet connection only, I want to access in registration Servlet. Is it possible to access or not? Give me answer. If it is only yes or no, I don't want. Okay. If it is possible, what we have to write? If not possible, why it is not possible? First of all, my question here, my question carefully listen first. Later you select yes or no. After that, you have to give a reason. Okay. Now, here connection con. This connection I established in it method. Here established. Now, what I want is this connection only I want to access in registration Servlet. I don't want to create one more connection in registration Servlet. That is my task. Now, first, is it possible or not possible? Decide. If it is possible, what we have to write. If it is not possible, why it is not possible? Like that, you have to give answer. Now, first you think yourself. First you think yourself, then select yes or no. Now, my question is clear first. Question is not clear. That's what, listen with concentration. Okay. This connection reference here in a login Servlet, I created connection establishment code. I don't want to write again same code in registration Servlet. This connection only I want to access there. Now, it is possible or not possible? If it is possible, what we have to write? Not possible, why it is not possible? Like that, you have to think and select. This section can I access in registration Servlet? Yes or no? How many people answer yes? Just raise your hands. Online students. Okay. How many people answer not possible? How many people answer not possible? No one is there. Online students. Majority people not given answer. Majority people not given answer. Take your own time, think and give answer. It is not an advanced Java question, core Java question only. It's just simple core Java question. Instance variables, class variable, local variables, you studied or not? Very depth I covered. Very depth. Have remembered about variables? How many types of variables are there? What are those? Instance variable, class variable, local variable. What is instance variable? Member of a class. What is class variable? Static member of a class. What is local variable? Inside a method. Instance variable memory when it is allocated? Whenever object is created. Class variable? Whenever class is loaded. Local variable? Whenever method is called. Instance variable in which memory block stored? Heap area. Class variable? Method area. Local variable? Stack area. Can we write local variable as a static? No. Static class, local variable cannot be static in Java. Can we write variables outside the class? No. Outside the class is called global variables. No global variables in Java. Okay. If I create 100 objects, how many copies of instance variable created? 100. How many copies of class variable created? 1. How many ways are there to access instance variable? What are those? When we have to use object, when we have to use object reference? One time required object. More than one time required object reference. How many ways to access class variable? 4 ways. What are those? Directly, class name, object, object reference. How many ways are not recommended? What are those? When we have to use directly, same class. When we have to use class name, if it is present in another class. Sometimes in the same class also we have to use class name to access class variable. In which situation? Local variable and class variable names are same. At that time, you have to use class name. How many ways to access local variable? 1 way. That is directly. Will it instance variable get default value? Yes. Class variable? Yes. Local variable? No. Local variable must be initialized. Otherwise, compile time error occurs. Before access, you have to initialize. Otherwise, compile time error occurs. When we have to use instance variable in Java programming, value is different. When we have to use class variable, same for all objects. When we have to use local variable, to perform the task. Student roll number, which variable record? Name, address, mobile number, mail ID, college name, class variable. University name, class variable. C language marks, instance variable. C++ marks, Java marks, total marks. Which one? Local variable. See, about variables only 30 plus questions asked. About variables only. Okay. Now, with this knowledge, give answer. Now, this connection this connection I want to access in registration Servlet. Is it possible or not possible? Think yourself and give answer. If it is possible, how? If it is not possible, why? Why it is not possible? Once again, how many people answer it is possible? Yes. Just raise your hand. Online students, once again. How many people answer not possible? Again, same response. Online also, offline also. Same response. Before asking variables also, after asking variables also, same response. Only one person selected not possible. And possible, whatever they selected at the time, same selected now. Now, okay, otherwise time wasted if I think about each and every student. Those who selected yes, how to access? Those who selected no, why it is not possible? Those who selected yes, first give me answer, how to access this variable? This connection I want to access in registration Servlet. How to access? Which object? Login Servlet object we have to create in registration Servlet. But actually Servlet objects are you creating? Who will create? Web container is creating. Okay. Okay. Whatever you said, login Servlet ls to login Servlet ls you can access. It is within the package. Access modifier also not required. Default. You can access. But if the person directly send the request to registration Servlet, because new user what will do? He'll send the request to registration Servlet. Servlet object created. This connection. It contains null. Again, null pointer exception comes. Because unless init method is called, connection is not established. No? What do you want? That's what in a advanced Java, instance variable accessing in other class variable accessing in other class, we are not going to write. That's what Servlet context, Servlet configs, request, response, these all we have. Now, what we can do when context is created, application deployed. This connection place in context. Okay. Now what you do here, this connection you place in context. Context is accessible for all Servlets. No? That connection place in context. Then connection accessible in all Servlets. So like a core Java, we should not write. Like with core Java knowledge, you give an answer. login solid object create, after that ls dot connection, like that possible. But suppose people may send request to registration solid first, then this connection is not established. Then what will happen? Null will be there. Null pointer exception. Suppose you may write registration solid only, connection will write. You will access in login solid. People may send request to directly login request. Then again null pointer exception comes. Unless that connection, you have to wait. But instead of that, while deploying only connection establishment, while undeploying only connection close, we can use listeners, no? Before sending request only connection established. It is better, no? That is a purpose, listeners. Now, what you do is here, in a context initialized method, when it is executed, whenever application deployed, you write the connection establishment code here. Connection close code, you write here. Whenever application deployed, connection established. Whenever application undeployed, connection closed. Before sending first request only, connection established. That connection where it is placed in context. Context you place. Context is common to all solids or specific to solid. That context attribute you can access everywhere, no? That is a purpose, listeners. Got it? So now if you write listener program, connection right here, connection establishment, connection close right here, application deployed, connection established, application undeployed, connection closed. Now first you will deploy application, connection established. That connection access in login solid, access in registration solid. Anywhere you can access. Before sending first request only, connection established. It is better, no? That is the purpose of listener. It is going to listen. Automatically it will listen, it will create, it will handle. Then connection established. Like that. That program I'll explain. Say, here context initialized. Okay. Servlet context event. Like this we'll write. Here what we'll do is we'll establish the connection. This connection established. This connection we have to place in context. We have to place in context. Servlet context dot set attribute. Attribute name. Any one name. Example, it is Oracle connection, Oracle. Like this I'll write. Then what will happen? Connection established. That connection placed in context. So with this line, it is Servlet context set attribute. Here Servlet context created. It is Servlet context memory. Servlet context. Here name of the attribute, value of the attribute. Name is Oracle. That name not only Oracle, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, whatever you want, you can write. Like this connection I'll place. So with this line, like this it comes. Now it is common to all servlets. Here context destroyed. Now context destroyed. This code I'll write. This code I'll write in one class. Suppose my listener dot Java. It is listener class. This listener implements context listener. That interface I'll implement. I'll override these two methods. I'll write. Now this application I'll deploy. When I deploy, This method executed. No? What will happen? Connection establishment code. Here, connection close code. Here, whenever this application deployed, connection established. Whenever application undeployed, connection closed. Now, this one access in login Servlet also, welcome Servlet also, registration Servlet also. All Servlets you can use. That's what one separate program I'll write. Suppose it is a my Servlet. This is I'll retry. Here, how to retry? Servlet context dot get attribute. Attribute name Oracle. Then you'll get a connection. So connection reference obtained. It is better no? Now, whenever application deployed, this is executed, it is placed. Whenever application undeployed, this is executed, connection closed. You will deploy, it is established, it is placed. This is login Servlet also, registration Servlet also, welcome Servlet also, like this only can access. Now, here no need to write connection establishment code now. All Servlets in that project can access. Same connection. No need to write again and again. While deploying only connection established. That is only you can access in all places. That is a benefit of listener. That listener no need to execute. Automatically executed. Okay. Write this one. So if you want to attend Spring class, if you want to attend development security operations tools, no need to wait until completion of advanced Java. You can learn parallelly. If any batches are there, parallelly you can learn. No need to wait. Servlet's only prerequisite to learn. So with this knowledge, you can learn parallelly. No need to wait until completion of advanced Java. If you want, you can learn Spring. You can learn development security operations tools. If any batch is there, full stack Java students, you can attend. No need to wait until completion of advanced Java. Parallelly, you can learn Spring. Parallelly, you can learn development security operations tools. For learning Selenium, core Java only required. So Selenium also any batch is there, parallelly you can learn. Angular batch is there, you can learn. For Angular, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That is, those who completed, you can attend Angular batch. Full stack Java, you studied total 5 categories of modules. Java modules, database modules, UI modules, testing modules, and development security operations modules. But once core Java, advanced Java, Oracle, if these 3 completed, you are eligible to write written test for NASCAM also. One more written test, placement purpose also. Screening test will be there. That is also you can attend. That is after completion. Screening test, you are eligible now also. Screening test, placement purpose. If they conduct, that is you attend. 70% syllabus is covered. You are eligible for screening test. But NASCAM exam, 100% should complete. NASCAM details I'll give tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Within 1-2 days, I'll provide NASCAM details. Even NASCAM related any doubts and queries are there. One admin number I'll give. You can contact them also. NASCAM exam related doubts and queries. But a total registration process I'll explain. NASCAM exam is your choice. After completion, you can write. But a screening test, their choice. They'll conduct exam at the time you're right. That day only you're right. NASCAM exam, online exam, screening test, offline exam. All details I'll provide. Within 1-2 days, I'll provide all details. Context initialized, context destroyed. Context initialized, context destroyed. Is it over? When this Servlet context is created, whenever web application is deployed, after creating context event generated, that event received by this method, then this method body executed, connection established, and that connection reference placed in context. And you can send the request to my Servlet. You can get the connection. When this context is destroyed, whenever application undeployed, this context is going to be destroyed. Then that event passed to context destroyed method, connection closed. So this total program automatically executed. We are not going to send any request. When application deployed, this method executed. Whenever application undeployed, this method executed. You are going to send the request to this Servlet only. This Servlet will get the connection. This Servlet is nothing but login Servlet, registration Servlet, welcome Servlet, like that one Servlet. Okay, this is new concept. How to write? We'll see now. Is it over? See. File. Okay, first I'll close these all. Now, file, new, dynamic web project. Something Servlet context listener, SCL. Now, next, generate XML, finish. Now, right click, new. Here, you observe listener. Listeners are there, no? Listener. You have to select. Okay. Here, package name. Suppose Servlet context listener. Class name. My listener. Next. Here, see, listeners are there. Total 8 listeners are there. Okay. 8 listeners are there in this Jakarta.servlet context listener. Select this one. Click next. Now click finish. Say, in my Eclipse, by default, this method names came. Context initialized, context destroyed. You may not get it. Then you type. Because these are default methods now, not compulsory. Generally, compulsory methods only generated. These are not compulsory, but generated. Sometimes happen this type. That Eclipse versions, all those things, compatibility will be there. Like that, maybe it will be happen. No. Here, context initialized, context destroyed. If not appears in your program, then you type this one. Public void context initialized Servlet context event SCE. Like this, you write yourself. That method's already given here. Okay. Now here, connection establishment code. Now what we have to write connection establishment? Class dot for name. Now Oracle dot JDBC dot driver dot Oracle driver. Okay. Now instead of writing here, you can retrieve from XML also. You studied with annotations also. You studied. Now here, next connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection. Now JDBC colon Oracle colon thin colon at localhost 1521XC. Username system. Password manager. Connection established. This connection, can I access in a destroy method? Can I access this connection in destroy method? Can I access? No. That's what you have to do. Connection you have to write outside as an instance variable. Connection con. Okay, now you can access. After this is you have to place in context. This is you have to place in context. Servlet context dot get at set attribute. But first of all, Servlet context required. How to get Servlet context? Which method you have to call to get the Servlet context? Config dot get Servlet context. But is there any config here in this program? No. But in this class also, one method is there. This Servlet context event. In this class also, method is there to get the context. Servlet context SC equal to SCE dot get Servlet context. Same method. Here config not there. At the time config dot get Servlet context we written. But here we don't have config. Here another way. Servlet context event dot get Servlet context. We got a context. Servlet context dot set attribute. Attribute name Oracle. Here connection. Here what is the first parameter? String. It is string. Second parameter object. I passed con. Is it valid or not valid? Valid or not valid? Valid? Sure. How it is valid? Now which is superclass, which is subclass? Object is superclass. Connection is class or interface. Connection is class or interface. What is that? Interface. But connection interface extends object class. Then now it is valid. You selected valid, no? Now object is superclass, okay. But is connection is subinterface? Interface extends class possible? Interface cannot extends class. Interface cannot implements class. You already know. Class cannot be inserted in interface. Class extends. Interface extends. Class implements interface. But interface Extends not possible, implements not possible for class. Class cannot be inherited in interface. You already studied, but you are giving upcasting. How it is upcasting? Got a point? Now, it will take object. It will take object, but I passed connection. Is it valid or not valid? If it is valid, how it is valid? If it is not valid, why it is not valid? If it is valid, how it is valid? If it is not valid, why it is not valid? It is Eclipse only. Not Notepad, not Edit Plus. Now, valid or not valid? At least seeing the Eclipse, you can give answer. Not valid. This error is connection not imported. This is connection not imported, that error. Connection if I import, see, Control Shift O, connection imported. Valid or not valid? Valid. Okay. Seeing that Eclipse, you give an answer valid. How it is valid? Actually, object is superclass, that is okay. But connection is not a class. Connection is interface. Think yourself and give me answer. Online students, 4 members given. I'll check it whether what they given. First give answer offline students. Now you have seen this line is valid. Because of Eclipse, you understood it is valid. Okay, because of Eclipse, you understood that is valid. How it is valid? Answer is valid. Because that is valid. Otherwise, error comes, no? That line, complete line error comes. How it is valid? Object is a class. Connection is an interface. No one is giving. Your answer can be right or wrong. Try to give answer. How it is valid? Online students, 6 members, they given. Whether they given right or wrong, I'll check it out. But first you give answer. Offline students. The 6 members also, what they given, I have to check. They may ask other questions also. Offline students. No answer. So those answers also wrong. Next. Connection is interface. That interface, are you implementing? No. That is already implemented in one class. That class is a part of driver software. This information already given. No? All JDBC interfaces are implemented in JDBC driver software implicitly. That means connection interface implemented in one class. But that class is subclass of object class only, no? That's what valid. Connection interface directly not inherited from object. But connection interface implemented in one class. That class, subclass is, that subclass, that superclass is object. Because you observe, class A, class B extends A. Now, A, OB equal to new B. If I write, Otherwise, 1 minute. Otherwise, interface A, class B implements A. First, is it valid or not valid? A OB equal to new B. Is it valid or not valid? Now, this line is valid or not valid? Valid or not valid? Valid. Okay. Here, which class object created? Those who given not valid, you start learning core Java again. Okay. It is valid. Here, which object created? B object. A reference created. A reference. But it refers which object? B object. If I print output OB, if I print system.out.println OB, class name at hash code, which class name comes? A comes or B comes? B comes. A will not come. It refers B object. It is B object comes. That's what. A like a connection interface. B like a one class will be there. This B class super class is object class. That it doesn't appears. Like that valid. So connection interface implemented in one class. That class extends object class. That's what valid. Okay. This program not completed. Tomorrow you will see continuation.